today's video, we are going to be talking about how the market is going to react to both the Ultimate Edition release and the normal Standard Edition release. So, just before the video does start, a quick little ad on a trading service I offer over on Twitch. For the cheapest premium trading service for just £4, €4, or free with Amazon Prime. You'll get yourself daily trading and investing guides covering both Xbox and PlayStation with an array of different techniques depending on your budget. I've been trading for over 10 years, making over 100 million on multiple titles, and recently making over 10 million in the first month for the last 3 years. So in today's video, we're basically going to be talking about what's going to happen to potentially cards in your club, maybe investments and so on, in the next few days with the release of the Ultimate Edition and the full release, because both of these have quite big market impacts going off of previous years. So in today's video, we're basically going to split up the investments. I'm going to show you the graphs from last year. I'll walk you through, I'll make a graph for this year and, give you guys a little bit of advice on selling players and so on and so on. Now, the splits are basically players who are under 30k. Second split is players who are over 50k. And third split is players that are going out of packs. And then we've got icons, heroes, and team of the weeks, and a dodgy voice. So without further ado, let's start off by talking about the first set of players. Now, first set of players are just going to be cheapo players. But also, thanks for EA for letting me have the game early, and as a result, being able to show you some game content stuff. So, players would be like the likes of Rafael Leao, the guy's sitting at the best part of about 17k right now. We've got players like Barella. Barella's sitting at about 21k. So, say all these sort of guys under 30k. Another really popular one would be Renato Sanchez. And basically, what I think is going to happen with these guys is, with the Ultimate Edition, we are going to basically see these cards drop. Now, why are we going to see these cards drop? Well, all of these cards drop with marquee matchups. Now, the relevance of these cards dropping in marquee matchups is marquee matchups was the first, first coins everyone had. Because the advanced SBCs weren't tradable, you had your starter packs that didn't give much. But then we had, obviously, marquee matchups, and that gave everyone about 20 to 30k, on top of 5 packs. So basically, how you got to look at this is, obviously, on marquee matchups, there was an increase in packs. So, packs meant players were supplied. But after there was an increase in packs, people had an increase in coins. So basically, we've got packs right here. There you go, there's a little pack. And we've got coins right here. So you've basically got to see, there you go. Was there a higher increase in the player packed? So were there more Renato Sanchez's packed? Or were there more coins from the packs when people sold stuff that they went and put those coins into buying Renato Sanchez? AKA, there's more demand for Renato Sanchez than he's packed, and he's going to go up in price. Well, all these guys below 20k went down in price. Why is that? That's because when there were packs opened, more of these players packed than was demanded with the coins they got. So for the first day, I do expect, first day of the Ultimate Edition, which is going to be the 27th, these players to go down. I expect them to go down basically from midnight of the 26th, aka when it's released. The midnight between the 26th and the 27th. And I expect them to go down all the way, probably down to about midday, or even early evening, like British Standard Time. And then probably after 6 PM content, I would expect, or I don't actually expect any content, I would actually expect these players to rise. That's because after 6 PM you get the point where a lot of people have probably opened their packs already. A lot of players have listed their point, and now they go, alright, now let me go and buy players. And that's when the shift of people opening packs and supplying the card, and people having coins because they've sold stuff, starts to shift. So you might have loads of players packs, let's say we're up here, but you might have not many coins. Well, what will slowly happen is, the amount of cards, or the rate of which cards are being packed, are going to go down. But the rate of which people are selling the players they've packed is going up, which means people have more coins, but there's less packs being opened. And basically what happened is the price will just rise and rise and rise. And this is basically the trend that we should see between the... We should see this trend between the evening of the 27th, and these should rise all the way through to the evening of the 28th. Now, what is the relevance of the evening of the 28th? Well, on the 29th, the game is released. And then we're back to people opening packs again. Between the 27th and the 28th, people shouldn't be opening packs, which means they'll slowly buy up the players, but they're not going to get packed. And then what's going to happen is, the apocalypse. Players are going to get packed left, right, and centre. And I can actually show you this trend with about 15 different examples. So, Foden, and here's the example. Here's the packs from the Ultimate Edition. Here's the Ultimate Edition here. So what would happen is people would have opened the packs, and then it rises until the full release, and then it drops from the full release. That's a 20k player. Then gets a Rudiger. Again, this would have been the Ultimate Edition or EA Access Plus Ultimate Edition. Ultimate Edition is open, they rebound, full release of the game, they drop and they drop and they drop. Then gets Wan-Bissaka. Again, Ultimate Edition, rebound, full edition, drop when the game's out. Adama Traore. Now this is a bad one, because Adama Traore just drops and drops and drops. So there are exceptions. Is there any underlying reason why Adama Traore is this player? Maybe he's a little bit cheaper. Obviously he's not quite 20k, he's sitting at 9k. But, yeah, no, and I guess maybe by the time the Ultimate Edition was out, it was only 5k. So maybe players that are, 6, 7k are going to be looking very, very ropey off the likes of the Ultimate Edition. But the general trend, and I guess we'll do a little thing for you, is going to be, we've got the 26th, we've got the 27th, which is the Ultimate Edition, the 28th, which is the day in between the two editions, we've got the 29th, I guess I should go with the 30th, because we'll take the 30th. No, we'll include the 30th. So basically what's going to happen is the cards are going to rise between the 26th and the 27th. Game's going to come out of 27, they're going to start to drop, they'll then rise again for the 28th, the rise through to the 29th, then the game comes out on the 29th and they drop. This is basically what you're going to see happen with the cheap cards. So, that is set 1. So players sub 30k, I would say you want to be selling basically the evening of the 26th. And if you do want to go and buy back, because there is going to be, these players do have a buyback opportunity, as in you're going to go and sell the evening of the 26th, should be here, and then you're going to go and buy back the afternoon of the 27th, because you should be able to sell and buy back, and then obviously you go and sell in the evening of the 28th before the drop or the full release. There is that play. Alternatively, if you guys have got stuff that's below 30k and let's say above 20k, you could just cut out this, which is again selling it on the evening of the 26th and buying back the evening of the 27th. You can just cut that out, for it might only save you a few k, and obviously you can just deal, just don't panic when the cards drop a little bit, and then just sell them at these prices. I mean, if we go back to the graphs of these players, we can see that obviously the price he started at was 20, but the price he went when the full game was out was 26. Rudiger, 12k, but his second price was 13. Wan-Bissaka, 23, and his second was 26. Adama Traore, awful. So you can see that there was a play to just not even bother with the whole selling and buying the car back, and maybe with one or two of them, it wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to sell them and buy them back, and even save that much money, or shortening, I believe they call it in the old stock world. So that's going to be the first set of cards. Stuff below 30k, again, you want to go and sell on in the evening of the 26th. Now you've got the cards that I would say are 30k and above, mainly cards that are 50k, because you want the ones that are, that much more expensive. Now, what cards that are 50k and above spring to mind? We are looking at cards like Nkuku, nice little expensive player. We are looking at the likes of someone like a Theo Hernandez, very nice player. We are looking at the likes of a Rudiger, very nice player. And the reason that these guys have a completely different trend is we'll go back to the this example here. So again, on Thursday we have marquee matchups. Marquee matchups for the first pack supply. Now, what happened with these cards? Because like I said with the Renato Sanchez's, these cards were packed more than people were getting coins to buy these players. Well, because obviously these guys are harder to pack, they had the complete opposite. And I can actually go and load up the likes of Footwiz and show you. So if I go show you Theo Hernandez, we can actually use the daily graphs, and we can see this right here, that Theo Hernandez, before marquee matchups, was 27k. Well, after marquee matchups, again, packs were opened and coins were received, because they obviously made coins, he went from 27 to 36. Now, what I personally believe is this marquee matchups is going to go and simulate the Ultimate Edition coming out. And the reason for that is, again, we didn't really see any packs until marquee matchups, and likewise, we haven't really seen much between marquee matchups and the Ultimate Edition. What's going to happen is the Ultimate Edition is going to come out, and there's going to be packs opened, and there's going to be coins received. The exact same thing which happened with marquee matchups. So this is why I believe the trends are going to echo, and this is why I would back these trends. So the cards are the cards are like Rudiger. Again, they don't really drop because they're not packed much. But I tell you what they do. They do go up quite nicely, because again, these cards are not packed, but people are going to open 4.6k FIFA point and get 60k's worth of trash. But they're all going to want to keep 6k's worth of trash. They want to get rid of that 6k's worth of trash and buy a Rudiger, which means that Rudigers aren't being packed, but they're being demanded. And that's why we should expect Rudigers to rise. I can show you this trend right here now. Obviously, I'm looking at some more expensive players here. We got Kante, who went from 420, again, not amazing, but up to 490. We got Son, who went from 280, again, went to 290, not too amazing. Saudi and Mane, much nicer here, went from 224, went all the way up here to 264. We got Big Verge, an exception, just held pricing, didn't really drop. João Cancelo, again, I guess this is a little bit of a cheaper player, but 28k went up really nicely here to 38k, and then Raheem Sterling went up here from 55k and went up nicely to 75. But what you'll see between these is it probably, I mean, after tax, it might not have madly been worth it. Would it be madly worth it? I guess you would have saved maybe like 3-4k, but as a percentage, the drop on these cards wasn't amazing. I mean, 32 to 28, I think you would have saved 1k right there. Obviously, Van Dijk, nothing crazy. Mane, 257. I'll be honest, this isn't madly fitting the agenda. 300 to... I mean, this does. 300 to 280. You can see that you would have lost 15k in tax selling at 300. You would have saved yourself 5k, but you would have caused yourself a lot more hassle. So I don't personally think that cards 50k and above, there's a hurry to go and sell before 6 p.m. to, you know, then go and buy back in 2 days' time, because there really isn't that much in it. So let's go and give you guys, I guess, a nice little graph of what I think is going to happen right here. So basically, in fact, if I can leave that last graph on, this would be quite interesting. So this is what's going to happen with players that are going to be sub 30k, right? So this is obviously what happens with more expensive players. So once again, they are going to rise and rise and rise and rise to about the 27th. So same first peak time. But what's going to happen is they're going to drop, but the drop isn't going to be, you know, this much. Maybe I could exaggerate that a bit more. It's going to be, you know, so relatively plateaued, you know, it's going to be something like that. So it's a drop, but to the point where it's not really worth selling. But because these players are rarer, and just like how Rudiger went up with marquee matchups and the low rare players went down, but then after that, Rudiger, you know, he would have gone a much, you know, risen at a much faster pace. When this is, I guess, this gradient or this rise is like this rise is going to be more like this. Because again, there's going to be more saturation on people wanting to buy these cards, because there's, you know, less Rudigers, but loads of people wanting Rudigers, whereas there's more Renato Sanchez's, you know, to eat up the demand. And again, so you're going to see this sort of thing right here again. Let's just round off right there, just for the sake of it. But you're going to see the exact same drop. Once again, full release, game card dropped. N'Golo Kante, full release, card dropped for a day, so it wasn't that crazy on him. Sadio Mane, full release, card dropped. Virgil van Dijk, full release, card dropped. João Cancelo, full release, card dropped. Raheem Sterling, full release, card dropped. Is there an echo or a parrot is the question. So we can go back to, hopefully find the right thing. We can see that, again, these cards dropped. But what was quite interesting about these, I'm going to scroll along right here, is they did do the exact same thing. They did drop for about 1 or 2 days. But then what we came to is we came to Metagate. And basically Metagate, which sounds like a word in itself, is basically where pros go, that's the player, that's the player, that's the player, that's the player. The Marquinhos, the Hakimi, the, I think, Ousmane Dembele, the Kimpembe, it's the pros basically dictate the market. Because if the pros do not say that they are meta, we are going to see something like a João Cancelo, where he just dropped, and he dropped, and he dropped, and he dropped. Because pros weren't saying that João Cancelo was the meta. Do you know what they were saying was the meta? Monsieur Hakimi. Out of nowhere, out of absolutely nowhere, like Hakimi had never been meta before. But we can see that in the first week, this is where everyone else would drop. Hakimi went up, and he went up, and he went up for about 3 weeks. Now, Hakimi was out of packs, but I can actually go and do this with Marquinhos as well. So for the first 1 or 2 days, as I'm progressively losing my voice, they do kind of drop with the rest of the players. But again, 1-2 days in is when the pros start moving the market. So the traders get the first few days. So again, look, it drops and drops and drops, and it's kind of at this point is where it plateaus. And again, this is week in League 1. So I guess the meta cards don't drop into week in League 1, they hold. And then after week in League 1, they rise. And then week in League 2, they rise. And week in League 3, they rise. And week in League 4, they rise. So the problem is, right, this is easier said than done. Because there's 101 players last year you would have gone, he was the meta, but they weren't. There's literally a pool of about 15 players to 20 players that are the meta. And it's way easier said than done. Because a lot of you will probably like to think you're back for the centre-backs. Well, centre-backs that could be meta this year are Rudiger, Marquinhos, Eder Militao, Varane, Who else can I think of? Kimpembe, Tomori. Who else could you have? Maybe outside Joe Gomez, but it's stretching. Conde, Koulibaly. And, you know, I understand there's tiers to this, but only 3 of them, I'd say, at a max, if not 2, will be the guys who rebound after 1-2 days. Because the rest of them won't be meta. So, trust me, it's a lot easier said than done calling this meta. Which is why you want to sell on the evening of the 28th. Because, yes, there's a chance the player you're selling on might be that one guy that rises for weekend leagues and plateaus a lot more. But it's easier said than done. You know, you can try and gauge it, but, you know, best of luck is all I can say. So I think this has got both the trends. Basically, they cut both sets of cards with drop and drop and drop. Again, meta's going to follow the same sort of thing. So we get to the final set of cards. And the final set of cards are the players that just have, they do what they want, they do what they want. So we'll start off with stuff like heroes, right? In fact, no, we'll start off with Team of the Weeks. I think Team of the Weeks is quite good. Because someone like a Valverde is actually a really good investment. Now, the reason I quite like a Valverde is if we go back to the likes of Sarr, Ismaili Sarr, there's not that many players you can compare to Valverde. But you've got the likes of Sarr. And Sarr, what he did was, he wasn't an amazing investment, right? But he was safe as houses. So he rose when they all rose. And I'll be honest with you, he dropped for the 2 days he dropped. But then he held his price for the best part of about, I guess, what are we looking at? About 3 weeks. And I guess when I say I like the card, I say it's quite hard to buy players for your team and not lose coins. But I like to think there are specific players in this Team of the Week 1 that you could go and buy. And I'd tell you in about almost anywhere from like 3 weeks to 2 months' time, they should hold their price given we don't get a special card in that position in, let's say, a future promo. But Sarr held his value really well. Obviously, I don't really need to tell you how when Vinicius Jr., he banged and he banged and he banged and he banged. Salah held his value for about 2 months. The rest of them were trash. Kimmich never did anything good. Diaz never did anything good. So you've got to make sure you avoid the equivalent of that. So I think Footbin's probably the best way of looking at this. So if I was looking at Team of Week 1, right, Deulofeu, trust me, not going to be demanded after Week 1. Immobile won't be demanded. De Bruyne should hold his value for about a month. Saliba is a bit comme-ci. Obviously, Prem centre-backs, I'm sure, will be in promos left, right and centre. French centre-backs aren't a rarity. That's nothing new to any of us who play FIFA. So I'll be honest, he'll probably hold value till we get another French centre-back. Soldier should hold his value for weeks. Valverde should hold his value for weeks, and so should De Bruyne. Again, these guys should just, follow the normal trends of rising and rising and rising. And again, there's a chance they'll have a 1-2 day drop, but where you have to gamble on who's going to be the meta on certain players, you don't have to gamble that with these guys. Like, again, as long as you're picking Valverde, De Bruyne, Son, Saliba, I think you're good. Again, I don't bet the demand on these guys. These guys just went down when we got ourselves marquee matchups, and they just barely had any rebound whatsoever. So that is that. Again, I wouldn't even go for them. You wouldn't even go for SBC fodder. I think it's a bit worthless. So that's Team Week 1. And then the second thing is icons. Icons, at the moment, are still very, very cheap. Even some of the relatively demanded ones. So, for example, who can I think of? I think I was looking at Vieira earlier. I can never spell the name Vieira. It's actually insane. So you've got Patrick Vieira. And if I'm not wrong, Patrick Vieira's sale prices, yeah, I mean, he's basically sold for $1 million. The problem is, obviously, there's nothing going on there. So let's see if we can have a little look what Vieira was last year. And if I'm not wrong, he is basically still undervalued. So I do think when these cards come out, these cards will still rise, basically until I think it's the second weekend league these cards rose to. So especially if we're looking, yeah, there we go. So this year he was $1 million. There's the argument someone like a Yaya Toure might be dropping this guy's price this year. But these cards basically held, and they just rose and rose and rose till about Weekend League 3, and then Weekend League 3 they dropped. Obviously, it's subjected to what special cards we get. I mean, I doubt we'll go and get some Vieira-esque special cards, Promo 1, but, don't let dreams be dreams. Trash icons, I doubt they'll hold anything past Weekend League 1, but again, I think your trash icons you're looking pretty decent with, especially if they're at a low proportion of what they were last year. And again, heroes were very weird last year. They released the heroes and they just crashed and crashed and crashed. I think we kind of got to see later, like closer to the date of the release, because I think I was looking at a guy called Gvardiol, if I'm not wrong, GVIO, something like that, GIO, GVA. I don't know, small, start small. So the problem with these cards, right, is we basically don't really know what their value should be because they're new cards. It's way easier said than done. But what's quite interesting, someone like Cordoba is about half the price he was last year. Likewise, you look at Keane. Keane's a fraction of what he was last year. Cole's a fraction. Now, of course, they're not the new toys anymore. These cards are players like Smaller Wreck are the new toys. So these cards, again, I'll be honest, we don't really know what's going to happen on release. Yeah, I think it's one of these things. You probably throw them in the category of these. The pros are like Small X going to be amazing. Well, then he's going to bang because they'll be very low supply, but they'll be high demand. But if they're not hyping them up, you're going to see the same with Mustovi. Mustovi, the way last year, he was worth 200k at one point, and then he crashed and crashed and crashed. Yeah, I'd imagine you see something like that, where they just drop off, unless the pros are singing their praises. Which I imagine they would with, I mean, I'll get the list up right now, but imagine they would with the likes of Marquinhos, imagine they would with the likes of, can we click on this card? Maybe we can't. The likes of Yaya Toure, I could imagine they would with the likes of potentially Smurek, potentially Forlan, potentially the pacey ones, maybe even the likes of Lucio. But I think that wraps it all up. So we'll end it on this graph right here. Cheap players, we expect them to again rise, then go down on the 27th. So again, you could sell on the evening of the 26th. Then look at buying back, I'd say, late afternoon on the 27th. Then look at selling on the evening of the 28th. And that's for cheap players. And then they'll just crash and crash and crash for the rest of the game. Oh, sorry. Players going out packs because, again, one-to-watches. They're safe for the week. There is the outside chance that one-to-watches get overinvested. Because we know who the majority of them are. They are leaked. We've seen in the past when they've been leaked and we know who they are. That one-to-watches have like crashed even when out of packs. So do I recommend holding one-to-watch out of packs? If they're actually the demanded ones, players who are the one-to-watches who do well out of packs are the demanded ones. So for example, like last year, Jack Grealish went out of packs and he just dropped because no one actually cared about Jack Grealish's gold card. So the ones I quite like out of packs this year would be, I think Mane's safe as houses, Rudiger's safe as houses. I think Renato is relatively safe. I think you've got something like an Anthony, which is a bit more of a gamble because he's not even guaranteed the one to watch. And again, you got to understand if they don't get the one to watches and you're gambling on a one to watch, they're down pretty badly. So yar. That's the final trend. I forgot. So yeah, once again, I say they rebound there and then they drop from the 30th. And again, with the cards that I'd say are 50k above, they expect them rising till tomorrow or the evening of the 26th, then dropping till about midday on the 27th. Then rising all the way till about the evening of the 28th, then dropping with the full release, and then you're relying on pros. Are pros saying they're the metas, and as a result they rebound for the first week in League or two, or are pros not talking about them, someone like a Cancelo, a Joe Gomez, and they'll just continue to plummet for about a month. Last question, end the video off. When should you buy teams? Absolutely never, right? Literally, if you buy your team in the first month, you're guaranteed to lose about, I think you lose about 10 to 20% per player per week. It's rough. So basically buy a team after a month, or you just buy a team and just be like, hey, I'm going to lose coins. Alright, so that's the problem with this. When do you buy a team? Answer that is you can't really buy it in the first month without losing coins. But hey, I don't know, you might as well buy it, have a bit of fun in FIFA, treat yourself. But I think that's going to be it before my voice completely bails out. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.